So, I finally found you, hiding out in the library. But too bad. It's time for your end. Hopefully, you have long awaited a Bloodborne-style game in Skautfold Shrouded in Sanity. This is a indie game. Yeah, I know, shocking, right? Absolutely. Anyway, this is a very clearly Bloodborne, Dark Souls inspired game. And I would say it definitely leans more on Bloodborne when it comes to its mechanics and design more so than Dark Souls, because it leans more on the fact that you don't really have a proper blocking system. Like, the caliber of Dark Souls, you do have a block option, but it's not as effective as Dark Souls. It definitely leans more on wanting you to actually to parry or to dodge. So, in this game, you'll play as a fellow who gets resurrected and given an opportunity to go and, well, do a task for your resurrected and resurrector, and you're tasked to go through a mansion and kill 4 bosses, or maybe I should say defeat 4 bosses, because the option to kill them is up to you actually after the fight, as you can actually spare the 4 bosses you're going after. And I will just minorly say it will affect the ending you get and the kind of information you're revealed about what's going on in the environment, because you don't really have any memories, and being obviously very inspired by Souls, you only drip fed a little bit of info from the NPCs that exist, and you mostly find a lot of the story in the environment and several things that you can examine. Because while there are items with a little information to them, there is not like a system per se like the Souls games where there's a lot of equipment. You have the equipment that you have. You have a sword and you have a pistol. No shield. You can block with your sword and you can do a parry with it, though it consumes a lot of stamina. And just like Souls games, you do have HP and stamina. Now, the things that are very different from even just Bloodborne is there's not a normal leveling system. Basically, instead of levels, you upgrade. So you can upgrade your weapon damage, you can upgrade the amount of healing you have, you can upgrade the number of bullets you have, you can upgrade your stamina. So there's no leveling, it's just upgrading all your base stuff. So you don't have an equipment system and you don't have a traditional leveling system. Now, similar to Bloodborne, you are essentially gathering blood as currency, but there is, on addition to that, an extra type of currency, these stones that you also have to use to do other upgrades. Generally, basically, the stones, you do most of your upgrades, while the other things you can pay for, so... And there is a place you can buy more stones too, but that price can get higher and higher. Now, because of that, you're not going to be necessarily grinding enemies for blood so much, but more so for the stones, because those are the more valuable item for upgrading most of your really important things. Now, you're basically dropped into this mansion and just told to go explore it. Now, there are lots of locked areas and stuff to find, and as you progress, explore, or defeat the bosses that you encounter, as those 4 main bosses in the mansion, and then you have the final boss, which is what your contract is mainly about, and your resurrection. But yeah, you're basically given life and told, do what I want, and I'll let you be alive and free. So, with no real memories, you go on through. Now, you can do rolls, and you can dash, and of course these take your stamina. Now bullets, like Bloodborne, take your ammo. You have a light slash with your sword, and a heavy slash that hits a little further than what your normal slash does. And then, like I said, you can also block and use your light slash to do parries, but they consume a lot of stamina. So if you're a parry spam type person, you're going to want to be very careful. Now, I will tell you, in my opinion, parrying is a lot easier in this title, in my opinion. You can parry things pretty easy, and if you actually get really good at it, just like any other Souls game, you can do very devastating damage to a lot of enemies. You will greatly enjoy enemies. Now, I will say that I find a lot of the enemies are, they're kind of up and down on whether you want to say they're really well designed or not. Now, when you kill them, you see them as a blood splattered body, and you'll want to inject them with this syringe thing you get, which allows you to suck blood out of them and allows you to gather that blood to be used. And if they have items, they will drop them for you to grab. And like a lot of Souls games, enemies will stay dead in that until you trigger a certain kind of screen. So generally, if you don't go back to the main room and save and heal and all that stuff, enemies generally will stay dead as you explore areas, so you can use that to your benefit. Now, the game is side-scrolling 2D, as you can clearly see. It's retro style and that, so it is not in a 3D realm. So I do have to say, getting lost is a lot easier, and you don't have any kind of in-game map or anything, which would be nice. You do get a lantern that you can flash around that uses battery power for you to light up the environment some, but now you can tackle any of the 4 bosses in any order. You're not really hindered by what you can do. It's more of how you explore the mansion and unlock the pathways to get to them that will be the more determining factor on how you encounter them. But depending on your luck, or whether you're using a guide or know what you're doing, you can fight any of them, any of the 4, in any order you want. The mansion and the environment around the mansion is pretty decent size, to be honest. For a little retro style looking game that's not super complicated, it's pretty decent size. The thing that annoyed me the most about the game, though, is a lot of traps. A lot of traps seem very deliberately put in your way. So if you're very sprinty around the environment, you're likely to run into the traps a few times more than that you probably would. I didn't really get to upgrade my character too much because I didn't really enjoy farming for the stones, but you can go and farm the stones obviously off of enemies to get your stats raised, because you'll need them for your HP, your stamina, your weapons, and your syringes for your health. Your bullet count will be dependent on your money. There is a new game plus mode option once you're done with the game. There are all multiple endings that are dependent on some of the things you do. And there is a strange, like, boss rush mode. No, well, not really boss rush. It's more like fight all the bosses at one time. And then there's also, like, a arena mode with 2 of the paintings in the starting area. And after you finish the game, you also get an extra bonus kind of thing you can play with. Well, it's called 4 Nights. Now, the game has 4 bosses you have to fight before you can do the 5th and final main boss. 4 Nights mode allows you to play through the game as 4 of these 4 bosses, using all their unique weaponry and equipment they have, both their positives and their negatives. And certain characters have certain drawbacks. Like, one of them uses guns, and because of that, they actually have no block ability, meaning they can't actually do normal parries or block. So they are completely dependent on the range aspect. which is, of course, a huge boon compared to a lot of the enemies, but still can be a hindrance in certain spots. It gives a interesting addition of replay, as different characters have different advantages and may suit your playstyle more interestingly. And to be honest, they're all pretty OP, to be honest. Now, some problems that I've seen in the game is that with Four Knights mode, is for some reason when you're playing as any of the Four Knights, your blood counter doesn't go past 0. However, you are getting blood, so you're just not being told the proper information that you have, which is obviously annoying when you want to use the blood for anything, but there's not a whole lot you can do about that. There is this system that's a sanity system, and to be honest, I'm not 100% sure all the things it does to the game. Like, some of the things I see, like, is enemy sprite characters, like, randomly appearing and stuff. I'm not quite sure how it completely affects the game. The game doesn't really go into it too much about how that aspect works. All I know is, like, when you die and you see the clock, that is used to give you an idea what your sanity is at. But another problem I feel like the game has is the music is so ungodly low. And I have no idea why. I mean, like, I have it on, like, fucking max. And you can't hear the background music, like, at all. It's so fucking hard to hear. And I have no idea why they made it like that. Because, well, it obviously makes it kind of hard to comment on. From what I can hear of it, it does fine of that. But, like I said, like, you can't really hear it very well, honestly. It's very strange to me, because I'm assuming probably updated versions hopefully might fix that, but, you know, we're reviewing the physical build by Without Games, so that is what I'm mainly talking about. From what I understand, there is a secret boss that I didn't really go after. I didn't get to dwell deeply into the game's extras and side rooms, and I even missed a character I didn't even ever meet in my game that would have made upgrading my character a little bit easier. Overall, though, if you're looking for a little bit something more towards Bloodborne than the 5 millionth Dark Souls style game, this is definitely something I could recommend checking out. But overall, I wouldn't put very high on my checkout list for Dark Souls or Souls-like style games. I think there's a lot of other Souls-like games that are more worth your time. But if you happen to play most of them, or you're just looking for something that leans more towards Bloodborne, it could be worth more your aesthetical time. Now, this does have a sequel that's a Metroidvania style game instead, and I do have that. I haven't played it yet. I'm hoping it took the world building in the world and kind of went more into making even better game. Like I said, this ain't a terrible game, but this is definitely something I would say if you just happen to own it, or desperately looking for something that probably a lot of other people haven't really played so much. And with that, it's also $9.99 digitally on all consoles. Because, and if you're like me, you like to own your games. And if you know me, I usually am playing physical games. And of course, for the physical release, as I already mentioned, was through Without Games. Now, Without Games does a lot of different games of different quality. Lately, they've been getting a lot of really good ones. Very high profile, some Japanese, some non-Japanese. But for a good while, they were pretty well known for doing a lot of more lackluster games when they first started. And in the mid-end now, they release a few interesting experimental titles That's all kind of dependent on whether you're looking for something different, weird, or just an interesting concept of that. Now, a lot of times, a lot of these titles are budgeted, which, that's something that I've complained about a lot with a lot of these limited companies, always like jacking the price up to get more money out of it. Well, it's a limited release, we gotta make it $30 for that. Now, Wet Arts now, it is important to understand Wet Arts is a European country. I think they're in a company, a European company. But I believe they're in France, if I remember correctly. Now, you gotta keep in mind those conversion fee kind of stuff. But basically, they're doing the $19.99 kind of price tag. It's like about $21 there because of different conversions, or maybe if you go through Video Games Plus or such, but it's, it's pretty much as close as it's gonna get there, considering different country currency type shenanigans depending on the route you go for it, which, was perfectly fine for the game. I mean, $19.99 for physical, I think, was perfectly fine price for the game. I think that's fine. It's an okay, acceptable price. Now, if you want this on Switch, because they did release it on PS5 and PS4, on Switch, they bundled it with the sequel, and because of that, the price is a little bit more. Now, sadly, if you're wanting to buy this brand new, you're going to have a little bit of trouble, because the only one that Wet Art Games themselves still has in stock is the double pack for the Switch. All the Sony versions are, well, no, I take that back. They still have PS5 versions of it in stock, but not PS4. So PS5 and the Switch version, they have in stock still at Wet Art Games. And at Video Games Plus, same deal. They only have the dual pack for the Switch and the PS5 version. So if you want the PS4 version physically, sadly, you're looking at about $40+ looking at eBay. A lot of people have scalped the price up. But, yeah, I would probably say go for one of the other two versions if you're interested. Now, I can't speak about the sequel, like I said. It's with the Switch version. I haven't played that yet. But I'm hoping it'll be an even better game. With that, I think that's pretty much my thoughts on this one. This one, like I said, isn't exactly the top tier kind of thing I would recommend when it comes to looking for Souls-like. But they definitely did their own little take, because, like I said, I mean, it's not 100% the same. It doesn't have a gear system. None of the characters, they just have their own loadout. You have the main character who has a sword and a pistol. You have a boss that just uses guns. You have a boss that uses only a sword and has, like, doppelganger after images. Like, they each have their own loadout. You can't just change equipment and gear and stuff. So they definitely focus the game around the main character's design. But the bosses do add a little extra flair to it. But overall, like I said, if you're looking for a Souls-like on either the cheap or just desperately trying to look for one that you haven't played, this isn't awful at all, but it wouldn't be the first one I would recommend. Then with that, spoilers. So, in the end, you'll find out that it wasn't necessary to kill the 4 bosses that you find within the Manor's environment. You just needed the orbs they had so you could get to the last boss and stop him. And what you find out is the 2 of you are siblings. And that, well, if you spare the boss, you'll get the bad ending because you went against your contract, and you'll be told that you just basically kind of fucked up with that. If you finish them, then you're basically told a bunch of mumbo jumbo that basically, I'm assuming, leads into the sequel, and hoping to stop the coming doom that there is. Now, like I said, I haven't played the sequel, so I can't really comment on that part yet. But from how it was set up, it sounded like it was just going into the sequel. Which, I mean, hey, cool. They made a sequel, so it didn't just end up being a needless cliffhanger, yeah? But, yep. That's pretty much it. It's nothing too crazy. But like I said, I didn't fully 100% explore everything in the game like I usually do with a lot of really good Souls games. Which usually is just FromSoft's games. Usually Souls-likes kind of depend on how into it I get. But yeah, this one I didn't go too crazy balls to the walls, but I had some fun with it. But it's not perfect. A few of the enemy designs and such sometimes are a little bit annoying, but hey, yeah. There's always going to be that one thing that fucking just mows you instantaneously in these kind of games. What? Anyway. Till next time, I'll see you at the Proving Grounds. Be careful. Your sanity might be slowly chipping away.